made it. You made it.
Wow, shukran.
Well, we were.
All right. Oh, thank you. What's happening? I love you! As a child, my mother always says, she showed me probably about 15 years ago, my mother, she was digitizing all of the family pictures. So she had all the old pictures, so she was getting them digitized. So she had about 50 pictures of the family laid out. And she said, look at all of the pictures. Do you notice anything? And I'm looking at the pictures. And I was like, no. She said, notice that there's not a single picture where you're not looking directly at the camera. She said, every other family member, you look at family pictures and your uncle's doing this, looking the other way. Somebody gets caught looking down. She was like, you always knew that where the camera was. And when the camera came up, you would, so there's a thing I always enjoyed being in front of the camera. As a child, I loved and still love when people feel good, right? So it's like such an important thing to me in a room that the energy of the room, I want people to feel good, right? So if I have to sing or I have to dance, so it's always been a thing. So
You have that great energy about it.
yeah, I live off of that energy of excitement and enthusiasm and inspiration. And I like how it feels to tell someone a story and they give their attention. And then when you get to the end of the story, there's the joyful release. So it's been something that I've loved my entire life. And then it's a natural part of me, and it became the energy of my desire to perform. I think the first time I heard Rapper's Delight, and it was like 1978, 79 that the first rap record ever came out. And I don't know what happens, art forms have a way of doing that, but when I first heard that rap record, I just knew I wanted to do that. And it wasn't even, nobody could make a living as a rapper at the time. But I knew I wanted to do whatever that art form was in front of people. And, rap music was the first real entertainment that captured my desire. Yeah. King, yeah.
Easy profession,
I thought I would have a kingdom. No, you know what? It's really funny. I've always been good at math and science, and I was absolutely certain I was going to be a scientist. I knew the way that my mind works is kind of like a physicist. I always think in terms of measuring and how things come together, and I love figuring things out. Like I love puzzles. I love problems. I love yeah. So I started making my own problems. Life is going too good. I need some problems.
Math problems.
Yes.
No, so scientifically solved.
Scientifically, no. So I love the process of figuring out how to make something work. I always loved taking radios apart and things like that. I had a brief period where dinosaurs were the thing. I fell in love with the physical material history and science. And then when I heard Rapper's Delight, I think that's when it really shifted for me. And it wasn't until I was prepared in 1986, I released my first record. And it was, small record in Philadelphia. I grew up in Philadelphia. And West Philadelphia, yeah. Born and raised, On the playground is where I spent most of my days. No, but it was when I was coming out of high school, that was the fork in the road for my life. And I had to decide, was I going to go to college for computer engineering or was I going to pursue my music career? And it wasn't even it was difficult because my parents wanted me to go to college, but I knew I would never be happy if I didn't pursue the performing. I just loved it too much. And I think you can look at children, you can watch children, and it's interesting. Okay. I did the film King Richard about Venus and Serena.
We've all seen it.
Yeah. So there was a part that we didn't get to put into the movie, and Richard Williams knew that he was going to, 2 years before they were born, he said he was going to make the number 1 and number 2 tennis players of all time.
Yeah, that's scary.
2 years before they were born. So what he said when Venus was born, he put a tennis racket, he put a book, and, a series of other things. And she was, 4 months old. And he said he put the things down in front of her, and the first 2 things she touched was a book and a tennis racket. And he said that he took that as a sign from God that her education and tennis was what he was going to concentrate on.
That's a beautiful story.
Yeah, it was really beautiful. We didn't put that in the movie. I'm gonna steal that for another movie.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you can still play a scientist. I think you have played a scientist.
Yes. Robert Neville. I was in I Am Legend. I played a scientist.
Yes. And there were dinosaurs.
And there were kind of dinosaurs. Yeah, little zombie saurs. My first cinematic experiences were Bruce Lee movies. Yeah, just seeing Bruce Lee movies was you come out and you're kicking in the theater, and I loved how he was bigger than life, but I love how he created energy that you walked around with out in the streets, and you went home and everything, and you were acting out the sequences, and you wanted to flip, and the level of inspiration that can come from this screen. I knew that very young. I was also very attuned to energy in that way, and I knew I wanted to do that. Not necessarily the acting part at the time, but the feeling that Bruce Lee was able to create. I knew I wanted to learn how to create that in hearts and minds. My understanding of the power of cinema grew, right? So I recognized it as a tool for inspirational energy. And it really wasn't until later in my career that I understood the real power to change hearts and minds, that you can depict situations, and you can depict people and historical circumstances, and you can inspire people to learn and to grow and to change. And the power to brighten our world through storytelling really came around Pursuit of Happiness and Ali were the first times I was like, whoa, it's more than just, thank you. Yeah, that it's more than just entertainment, that it actually can touch people's lives in a way that they're able to change their personal environment and expand that power out to changing their communities and changing the world. When we made Bad Boys, I didn't realize, first off, the power of collaboration, right? So that was the first time that I learned that Martin and I together, it wasn't 1 + 1 = 2. It was 1 + 1 = 10, right? So the power of collaboration is exponential. And that was one of the things I saw in Bad Boys.
Global phenomenon.
A global phenomenon. So I had made music, so I had traveled the world a little, but it wasn't. It was soon after that. There was a story I tell about Arnold Schwarzenegger was the first person to really explain it to me. So, I knew that traveling was important. I knew that going to other countries and seeing people was important. But I asked Arnold. I said, "Hey, listen, I want to do what you're doing, and I know you can know what advice would you give me?" I said, "I want to be the biggest movie star in the world." And he said, "If you want to be the biggest movie star in the world, your movies cannot only be popular in America. You have to go to every country in the world. You have to meet the people. You have to see the people. If your film is only successful in America, you are not a movie star." Right?
That's a great Arnold impersonation. And he was right.
He was right, and it really opened my mind to realize how much bigger the world is than just America, and America is a gigantic country, and many Americans, we spend our entire life living and dying without ever leaving the country. And so for me, right after Bad Boys I made it a point to really get out and just see how differently people think and create and feel than the confines of the American borders.
There's a fourth Bad Boy coming
Yeah,
up.
we got it. Yeah, we record. Yeah, we just.
So also, decades apart, we're not talking about a couple of years of an experience. This has kind of informed some steps of your career.
Yes, we almost finished it. We're shooting a Bad Boys 4, and it was a reunion with Martin, and it was 30 years ago that we made the first one, right? So
and you look the same.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep it, what I'm saying, just a little, only the finest juices and berries, the finest juices and berries.
You have a great, hairstylist.
But yeah, to be able to come back together with Martin, and what I realized, what happens is people grow up with the movies. Right, so it's like we're growing up together, and we come together with the movies, and it's almost a relationship that gets created when you make that many films over that much time. Because in the beginning, I was against sequels until Bad Boys 2, and I just saw the energy that comes around it, and that realization that it's a relationship. You're cultivating a relationship with the people that go to see the films.
You do the sequels for the fans. They want more. You have to do more. That's the nature of a sequel.
And my thing with the sequel is I refuse to make one just to make a sequel. I'm always trying to figure out what is the elevation of the character, what is the new idea, what is the change that will match the changes in our lives. I want the character to grow and learn and expand as we're learning and growing and expanding in our lives, to be able to not just make it because it would be cool to make a sequel, to be able to make it because there's something new to say and there's something new to share. With Bad Boys, what we wanted to do that was unique is you usually don't laugh that hard in an action movie, right? So it's hard to sustain the seriousness of the action, but also get big, giant laughs. Sometimes when you're laughing that hard, it breaks the seriousness of the reality that you need for the action. So it was, it's a really delicate balance to be able to span that much emotional landscape, that much of the spectrum. And Men in Black kind of did that too. It's very rare that you can laugh that hard in a special effects movie, and one tends to break the other every once in a while.
Who loves Men in Black?
Men
Let
in
me
Black.
put my hands up.
Yes, me. Right.
And I'll tell you why you love it so much, because it helped you not only stretch the acting exercise and the comedic one, but also the musical one. All of a sudden, it was 360. It was like, all your energetic talents in one project, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was really the first realization that I could use everything that I was around a single project. I got to learn as an actor sitting across from Tommy Lee Jones, who is just a brilliant, Tommy is, I worked with Tommy Lee Jones and Gene Hackman.
Yes.
And those two actors were people, where I sat across in the scene, realizing I was totally outmatched, and they inspired me to elevate my craft as an actor. But Tommy Lee Jones, Tommy Lee Jones and Aliens and me, and then I was able to do music around it, like being able to use everything that I am in a single project.
What inspired the song? The iconic song.
So I hadn't done that before. So my music career was kind of getting smashed by my acting career, So I was
to do something.
I was quickly becoming just an actor, and I wanted to be able to continue the rapping. But I knew I was a better actor, and I knew I would be a better actor than I ever would be a rapper. But I loved it, and it was just the perfect opportunity to do both. And I just remember one night that when the idea hit me, and what was so great is the movie just laid out what the song needed to be. So it wasn't like I had to make it up. I just laid out what the story was, and my career has become an exploration of myself. Right, where you get to try things and you get to experiment, and sometimes y'all like it and sometimes you don't. But it's a beautiful way of getting to know who I am and being able to craft how I want to be in the world. And it's like the characters teach me about myself, and the characters teach me about life, and they help me hone my contribution to humanity. Yeah, it was so it's funny. So the creative time for me was before my career took off, right? So when I had hours and hours a day to hone my craft. And then once things started, I felt like I had less and less time to actually hone the creativity. So the periods between the projects tended to be more creative for me, whereas once the project is out and going and you're working 16 hours a day and you're doing that, I find that those are generally less creative times, and my mind needs space, right? You need things to happen. You need, life to happen, and you have babies, and you go and you break your leg, and you have to go to the hospital, and you meet people, and you need life to happen in order to find creative juices. Fun trivia about the pharmacy scene. So that the allergic reaction was I'm actually deathly allergic to bees.
Ooh la la.
So when I was young, I had been stung by a bee, and that's what my face looked like. And my mother had a picture of me from when my eyes were closing and being stung by a bee. So that was kind of based on how my face actually looked at one time in my life. So it was.
So your mom has a photo for any occasion.
Yeah, my mother has the real hitch photo. But yeah, so that kind of comedy. What I discovered on that film is there's nothing above love as a concept for a movie. If you any movie you've ever enjoyed, love is at the center of it, right? It's like we're all trying to figure out how to relate with one another in this world in a way that we will uplift one another and that we'll be able to harmonize with one another. And on Hitch, I realized it's like, oh, wow, even Hitch's relationship with Kevin James it feels like a loving relationship. You have a guy who's in love with a girl, and then he meets a guy who is willing to sacrifice to help him find love. And it really opened my mind to love, or the absence of love, as the central human theme, and absolutely the central cinematic theme, that every song or every movie, every piece of entertainment that you've ever appreciated, it either highlights the power of love or the tragedy of the absence of love. And so when I started thinking about films in that way and started looking at how all of the relationships between the characters are illustrating some deep yearning for love or the suffering of the absence of love, I started being able to hone my characters and my films in a way that would resonate globally, right? When you center on love, you no longer need language. You can watch Pursuit of Happiness with the sound down, and that yearning and that struggle to be a loving father, and the eyes of a loving son looking at his father, trusting him to make it go right. Like that is absolutely universal. So, well, generally all of my movies are really, really well received.
That's absolutely right.
That's a joke.
Well, here they are.
It's true, but it's a joke.
Look at Wild Wild West. Everybody loves it.
No, so I'm a studier, right? So the important thing for me in life is that I continually learn. So I am a kind of an amateur religious historian buff. So I've studied the stories that last for thousands of years. And at the core of stories that last for thousands of years is human suffering and a character who is suffering and sets out in the world to achieve the thing that he or she believes will end their suffering. Yes. Right? So that is really basic, really simple. I say to the people that I'm working with, when you're starting with a story, you think of it as one of two phrases. One, somebody wants something badly and they go for it against all odds, or somebody falls in a hole and they spend the movie trying to get out. And at the end of the movie, they get out of the hole, and that's a happy ending, or they end in the hole, and that's a tragedy, right? So I would say, yes, I have good instincts, but it's more, I think, scientifically about what are we saying to people? What is the point of this movie? And, you look at something like, I've done it well sometimes and not well others, but something like King Richard, the central line of King Richard for me in the development is when he said, nobody ever had no respect for Richard Williams. They ain't never had no respect for Richard Williams, but they gonna respect y'all, right? That's the whole center of it. A father who feels like the world has not given him any respect and the world beats on him and puts him down and calls him names, but he is devoting his life to making sure the world doesn't treat his children like that, right? It's like...
It's the synopsis.
Yes, and it's like, it's so, you have to start from something that is universally relatable and something that is emotional. And that's the thing. It has to be, people have to relate emotionally from the seed of the idea. And when you tap into the emotion and the suffering in the seed of the idea, then you can start to grow. If you start from, wouldn't it be cool? Imagine aliens came, and then they blew up like a building, and it's like, well, okay, but bring it back up a little bit. Let's start with the people at the center of it that are affected. What's the suffering of the people at the center of it? And then the cool thing happens. And, it's easy to miss, but it's, movies are about people trying to figure out how to be here without being miserable, and
engaging.
And yes, how to be okay with life, how to not just survive, it's how to thrive in this collective potential existential tragedy that we've all been dropped into. How do we make joy and love out of that? And I like finding characters and walking them through that journey. For me, the thing, I always hated when I would hear people say, oh, those are the blockbusters, but these are the good movies. It's like, well, no.
That's not
true. So the thing for me was I wanted to make good movies that were blockbusters, right? Or blockbusters that were good movies, And the pursuit of happiness was a real accomplishment for me in that realm. In terms of global success, the pursuit of happiness made as much as Hitch, right? So people attached to the story to me, the concept of blockbuster is your heart, right? A blockbuster is the block that gets busted is your heart. Does your heart open to the experience of the movie? And that was the thing that I always wanted to concentrate on. There's like a fine line. And even with something like I Am Legend, I wanted to be able, can you give a real performance at the center of a special effects movie? And so for me, that started to be my concentration, to dig as deeply into myself as a performer, to touch people in a way that you might not necessarily see that level of concentration on performance in a movie with zombies.
Yes.
Yes. I'm Legend, yes. Yes, I'm Legend too. Actually, I have a call with Michael B. Jordan tomorrow. Yeah. Yeah, we have a really cool, the script just came in. I'm probably giving up too much information. But the script
well, there'll be more than you in the film.
No, we're both, Michael B. Jordan and I, we're using, on the, you have to be a real I Am Legend buff, but in the first one, in the in the theatrical version, my character died. And everybody's like, well, wait a minute, how he gonna make a part 2 of his character? But on the DVD, there was an alternate version of the ending of the movie where my character lived.
Mid-credit scene.
Yeah. So it was like, so we're going with the mythology of the DVD version where my character lived. And I can't tell you anymore, but Michael B. Jordan is in, and we're doing it.
That's gonna be awesome. Coming back to Pursuit of Happiness, I was sobbing uncontrollably in that film because
imagine how I felt.
Yeah, I mean exactly. With family in it. I mean, it's just heart-wrenching.
So how with Pursuit of Happiness, how we prepared is Chris Gardner was there with me, and he walked me through the streets that he had slept on with his son. So I walked with him through the streets, and he took me to the bathroom that he had to spend the night in with his son. And he said, I want you to just have some time in there by yourself. And I went in.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Where's my trailer and cappuccino?
And I stood in that bathroom, and it was a dirty subway bathroom, and I just burst into tears standing in that bathroom. And then ultimately when we shot the scene, I was doing it with my son. So it was my actual son laying on my lap in the bathroom. And
that was a tough film to make.
Yeah, it was really, really tough. And I grew as an actor from Pursuit of Happiness. It's like all the characters, as an actor, you're kind of bending your mind a little bit to play these characters. And it can be dangerous, but you bend your mind a little bit, and it never totally goes away. It kind of, characters can register in your mind as actual experiences. It stays in your psyche as an actual experience, and you have to be really careful. You can have nightmares, and you can have all kinds of things that happen if you go too deeply into a character. And I've done that once or twice in my life where I've gone too far, and it can twist you up a little bit. It's a very, very different situation when you make a movie, and it happened to me by mistake. I didn't realize it. When you make a movie about someone who's alive, one day you're going to be sitting in a movie theater and they're going to watch it for the first time.
Yeah.
And I remember I was sitting behind Muhammad Ali while he's watching, and I'm sitting there and the movie starts.
And you're like,
and I was like, oh no. I was like, this was really dumb. And I'm sitting there and I am terrified sitting behind Ali, and he's watching the movie. And he looks, midway through the movie, he's not giving me anything. He's not looking back. I'm like, boy, I'm back here. And so he's watching the movie.
He snubbed you.
Yeah, I know. And he looks over at his wife midway through, and he says, was I that crazy?
You've done your research?
Yeah, she said yes. And he looked back, and he said, you almost pretty enough to play me.
That's a great story.
But yeah, the family, and what's different when you make a movie about someone who's alive, you totally lose any concern other than the family has to love it, right? You're like, oh, if the person you portray doesn't like it, it's like a year of your life that you've given and they hate it, So it's like I've been blessed that all of the subjects of my true stories have appreciated my depictions.
Is there a genre you feel you haven't done? I couldn't find one in my research. And is there a genre you're more comfortable in, or you like to do them all?
I've moved around a lot. I think my natural home is comedy. Like where if a script comes in and you know, like working with Martin Lawrence in Bad Boys, I know I'm going to have a good time. It's going to be fun every day. We're trying to come up with the silliest things that we can say and do on camera. So working on the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, that's like the best job.
Yeah.
Like.
And the series that you've produced a series
We
about it.
produced a series of the dramatic version of it. But comedy is like, you know, you have great days at work when you make comedy.
The crew's laughing.
Everybody's laughing, and you know, it's like it's a great way to make a living. What happens with drama is you grow. Right? So when you play a drama and you have to study and you learn about a character, and you know, when you have to go deep within yourself and find something that you don't naturally understand, you have to do a dialect, you know, you have to find a new body, right? So for example, for King Richard, Richard Williams, in trying to understand his body and his movement, right? So he stands. And
fashion choices.
And his fashion choices, yeah. When he stands and he talks, they say, hold on now, hold 1 second. Now, with all due respect, I understand the things you trying to say, right? And like everything within his body has an arch forward. Right? And it's because of the physical injuries that his body has. And it's funny. Oh, actually, Pierce is my barber. And what Pierce suggested, I don't know if you remember today, and it clicked. He said, think of it as a shopping cart, right? And Richard Williams, I was like, yes, that idea, how he walks is like he's pushing a shopping cart, right? So, right. So what happened is, as an actor, you get that idea, and then what happens is, you know, how you hold your neck, and then how you look at people's, and then how you talk, and all of that. You have a new body, right? So if I was okay to be able to find a new body, this don't look nothing like Will Smith. When you look at this, none of this positioning is how Will Smith talk. This ain't how Will Smith look, and things like this is how I make y'all feel like it ain't Will Smith for a few minutes. You know, so it's like finding things like that it can be terrifying, because you don't know, like, is that going to be too much, right? So if you do it too much, then you see, that's just Will acting, right? So you have to find that spot where it's enough that it's authentic and you suspend disbelief. But if you go too far, it's like an actor overdoing it. So you have to find that right balance. So as an actor, going into drama and finding those things is like terrifying, but when you hit it right, it's beautiful.
Is there anything you absolutely still want to do? I mean, you produce a lot. You told me earlier that you'd like to teach, which I thought was super interesting. So, you know, directing perhaps. I mean, you know, so much talent in you. Anything you absolutely want to do?
A movie with Denzel, yes. A movie with Denzel Washington in Saudi. Yeah.
I am fully available. We'd give me some acting lessons, and then I'm all game.
Yes.
In Al Ula, in Maraya.
In Al Ula, yes, exactly. You know, I think that right now the thing I'm really excited about is the transfer of knowledge. I really want to teach. I really want to teach filmmaking. I want to work with people on big movies. And, you know, so what's exciting to me about Saudi is it's a brand new film community. So it's brand new filmmakers, and there's a style of global storytelling that I've traveled the world, and I understand tiny little adjustments that make things global, right? To be able to take local stories and make them global. So I'm excited to travel the world and collaborate and be able to teach and build global storytelling community. I have a deep faith in the power of sharing our stories with one another to help heal wounds, to help learn about each other. So I feel like this next phase of my life is going to be working in global collaboration to create an exchange of our stories that that creates bridges. And I just don't feel like politics will necessarily create the change. So I'm putting the burden on myself and on global artists to create the change.
And I look forward to you being more present with us in the region.
Absolutely. I love it here.
We love you.
I love it. Somebody got to tell me where my house needs to be. Y'all got to tell me where my house needs to be.
Okay, more than favorite directors, do you feel like you had mentors throughout your career?
Yeah, I think Quincy Jones has probably been the most prevalent in my life. And, Quincy has always made himself available. There was business things that Quincy was always available for, but more importantly, he was paying attention to my life, right? So Quincy was always, there and around when my children were born, and
He's so present, this man.
Yeah.
He's got this energy.
Yeah, Quincy loves people, and that's another thing. It's like, he never forgets your birthday, and he knows when your kid graduates from high school. It's like, oh, it's Quincy, know all that stuff. Right? He's always been very, very present. He wants me to win as a human. He's devoted to me as a human, not just as an artist. And he's really taught me and inspired me the way that I want to be available to the next generation. I was talking about the transfer of knowledge is so important. You can do it by yourself, and for the most part, you have to provide the energy for it by yourself, but somebody knows the short route to where you want to go. And it's really important to find the people who know and make friends and offer your services to the people who know. It's like you're ultimately, if you're devoted to your dream, you'll ultimately make your way there. It's just a little bit easier when you have an elder who understands and is willing to spend time to teach.
Share experience.
Yes, to share the experience. You're going to make mistakes. I've made tons of my own mistakes, and we all make mistakes, baby. But it's really to have somebody to call is huge. Everybody doesn't have somebody to call, and I have been blessed that I've always had somebody to call that was willing to help.
You once told me a great story about being in a field in Africa, and a woman recognized you, and she might have not seen a film in her life.
That I was very surprised. We were in Mozambique, and we were 100 miles outside of a major city. And there was a woman washing her clothes in a river. There was no electricity for 100 miles. And she's washing her clothes for the river, and we were shooting Ali, and we were shooting a piece of a scene. And I walked by, and she doesn't even look back. She's washing, and she says, "Getting jiggy with it," right? I was like, what? I was like, how do you know? But no, it's a really unique. Fame is a unique monster. And you have to be really careful. I've had to be really careful. You can't get excited when everybody is saying good things about you, because the more you take when people are saying good things about you, the more hurt you're going to be when people are saying bad things about you, right? You know what I've experienced, you know, in my adversities of the last couple of years, is I have to be clear about who I am and what I am attempting to do in the world. And I can't need others to applaud for me to stay focused on my mission. I have always wanted to put good into the world. I've always wanted to make people smile. I've always been devoted to the process of joy and inspiration, and you know, I want you to feel good. Like I am here because in my deepest heart, I want you to feel good. You know, and at the same time, I am deeply human, and my virtue is not yet perfected, and I am in the process of perfecting my virtue. So one of the I would say the greatest thing that has happened is I have been deeply humbled and deeply inspired to perfect my light. And that's what this next phase of my life is going to be, perfecting and shining my light as brightly as I can on as many people as I can.